Hey, welcome to this extra special episode. I am Eric,
I'm Dan.
and we are I Am with the Band Man podcast. Uh, Dan and I were going kind of back and forth, looking at the schedule. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit. I don't think that necessarily thinking about like our release schedule and how the episodes would get released and get consumed and get enjoyed, hopefully by everybody, was always kind of something that we consciously thought about. Dan and I were kind of talking about like, what does this look like? It kind of worked out pretty perfectly where Chuck and I a few months ago had recorded the one bonus episode. So instead of having the first part straddle like 2024 and then the next part straddle 2025, Dan, being the genius of out of the group, came up with the idea to kind of do like a year in review. And again, Dan being the genius he is, I thought that was a great idea. Just real quick highlights. We hit out that gate running with Stevie Tulipana from Season to Risk for our first interview. Then we had Chuck Coffey of Spells and Snapping the Little Numbers and everything else for our second episode. We had Rennie, the one and only Rennie Resmini from Starkweather for our
Hmm.
third interview. Somehow or another, I was able to get Duncan Barlow on here for episode four to talk about all things guilt and by the grace of God and all the other millions of bands he was in. Episode five, we had Adam DiZarilla to talk about primarily Salem, and then he was talking about his current bands and all that stuff. Episode six was a weird one. That was my first solo episode that Dan couldn't make it for. That was with Matt Schmitz of Former Thieves. That was great. Or interview seven was Damian Johnston of Playing Enemy and Hemingway and Great Falls and lots of other bands. Episode eight was Damian Wendell, two Damian back to backs.
Yeah.
Very nicely done. See what I mean? Like if we had planned it out, we probably would have split them off. But
Yeah. We got a
he
third one.
yeah,
Go ahead.
we do. He did drums for Maida, and then the closer of the year for normal interviews was the great Rob Pennington. Oh, Dr. Rob Pennington,
Yeah.
also Dr. Duncan Barlow. I keep forgetting that they are PhD material of
Hmm.
By the Grace of God, Black Cross, Black Widows, Black God, Endpoint, Jupiter Hearts, Ashia, all those other bands. And then kind of hinted at that before. Chuck and I kind of came up with this idea that we would randomly get together and just talk about a some kind of topic where Chuck would basically educate me and I would ask dumb and uninformed questions and he
Mhm.
would patiently and politely give me good answers. Yeah, Dan, we had a pretty good year seeing as how this is our 20th episode that we're releasing. Want to go through and name some of your highlights of the laundry list of interviewees we've had.
Sure. Yeah. 20 episodes is crazy. And uh, yeah, I really, looking back on it, like from the first interview with Steve, it's just funny because, a lot of these interviews, it could be like this one guy talking the whole time and we just listen. I mean, and it was great. I love it. That's to me, I just letting hearing the artist, talk, tell stories. That's what the whole really the premise of the show is. So I really have fond memories of the first interview with Steve, um, just because I love Season of Risk so much, and I thought that was such a we had a hard time kind of figuring out who we want to go first, and I thought that was a great way to kick off the show, with Steve Tupolana, and really I like give you so much kudos because you like did almost all yeah yeah you booked these guests. You knew Rob and Duncan. We got a lot of great guests on. I mean, people that um bands like Guilt and By the Grace of God, and just bands that we both love, and it's just really awesome to get guys like that on to talk about music, some of the music that has really shaped shaped us, and been some of our favorite music, growing up and now. So, um, yeah, I enjoyed, all, like all, I think all the interviews really went well. They all were really like candid and um you know I noticed like all the interviews they're all kind of that's the thing I love about punk and hardcore metal is that everybody's a little bit self-depreciating and maybe like they um yeah there's not like a lot of egos in the world of there are I'm sure but not the people we interviewed. They're really ego-free individuals that just like talk about their music, and I think they feel they're appreciative of the people that listen to bands like Plain Enemy and By the Grace of God and Guilt and Starkweather and all the great bands. Salem, you could tell. I mean, Adam, when we interviewed Adam with Salem, like he seemed like really like he was very thoughtful, and I really enjoyed that interview. Like, um, he's a guy we could talk to him for like 2 extra hours. Just such a great guy. But that was all. I mean, every interview was like that. Like I think sometimes I'd be like, how this interview is probably gonna be short, and then it never went short. We always went way longer than we needed to. And Eric works on editing these episodes, and I feel bad for him because he has to edit these beast of an episodes. Um, which I know the length of the episodes may scare some people off. Um, that's what she said, right? But no, that but no, these I hope I'm a complete nerd. I listen to the interviews myself just to kind of go back because we um we record these we recorded these all long ago, and now we're like in a little bit more of a regular release schedule, a little bit more current, I would say. But like some of these interviews we recorded and we released them 6 months later or whatever. So yeah, it was interesting to kind of hear them back and I know I want to get better at this and ask better questions and just but this is something we do as for fun. After our work days, we interview. We try. We're just appreciative that artists the our interviews come on and give us the time they do. And this is just something we're doing for fun, obviously. So I hope that we're hoping that some people enjoy it or everybody enjoys it. And we want to get better at it and, get to change the format a little bit. Um, but really, yeah, I guess I really enjoyed our guest list. I really enjoyed the deep dive in the albums. Um, I loved the Season of Risk, the Starkweather, um, Salem, um, and Duncan. Uh, those all stand out to me, but I really loved all the interviews, and they all are different in their way. And yeah, I thought it was a great first year, and I think we're just going to try to make it better next year.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Kind of jumping on with what you were saying, about just the nature of the guests that we've had, right? Like ego free. Um, it's actually something I was going to talk about when we did this. I was thinking about it the other day when I was in the shower. L- We're doing this absolutely for fun, right? Like I don't think, at least I'm sure that you do. I can speak for you with this one. Like we don't have any real agenda with doing this other than talking to people that we admire and that we love and have produced amazing music. And we might differ on this a little bit. I don't care so much about the clicks that we get or whatever the likes. If
Hmm.
we had somebody on here and they were a jerk or they were confrontational or whatever, like they had ego,
Hmm.
whatever happened, if I had that like that ugly feeling about it, I just wouldn't release it. There's no point in this. So
Yep.
everybody that we've had, I mean, it's not like I'm not just blowing smoke up anybody's butt. Everybody that we had on here, and I know that you feel the same way, they were great. Everybody's wonderful. I mean, the communication we had before the episode, the conversation with them, conversation after the episode, everybody has been amazing. And honestly, more than anything else, I'm humbled by the fact that these people are willing to come on and spend between 2 and 4 hours out of their whatever's going on, super busy in their life to talk to us. We're nobodies,
Yeah.
right? And
Absolutely.
they're coming
Yeah.
on and telling us whatever, answering all of our questions. And like you said, I mean, like we get so many good views, so many good conversations, and so many good perspectives. And, I love the deep dive. Again, Genius You, that was all your idea. That was kind of our approach, our niche. Um, but it's also kind of difficult for me sometimes. Like if we're talking season to risk, right? What album do we pick, right? If we're
Yep.
picking By the Grace of God, what album do we pick? Starkwater, what album do like there's all
Yep.
so many great albums.
Yep.
And I don't know, right? I mean, down the line, maybe we'll have some of these people come back and maybe
Oh,
we'll
that'd be
do
cool.
just a bonus, just the back half of the episode, right? We'll do a bonus where, okay, like we did your first album, let's talk about this other album.
Yeah.
Just because, like, I've got FOMO with some of these.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to hear what the other ones are.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, yeah, I was gonna say the Shattering by Season of Risk,
yeah.
I mean, but or Starkweather, yeah, yeah, I mean, but yeah, absolutely. No, that'd be an interesting concept to do that. Yeah, because like I said, it was really hard to pin down an album. Sometimes we left it up to the artists,
Mhm.
to kind of sway us a little bit. But sometimes it just became down to like, okay, we had to pick something, so I guess we're just gonna settle on this album. So, but yeah, sorry, I cut you off. What were
Oh
you
no,
saying?
no, no, not at all. I was just gonna say, I know you and I were also kind of talking about, like obviously we're doing this basically just for kicks, not clicks, in case I
Mhm.
speak too fast and stutter. Um, but we do strive, I think, to get better, and anybody who's either been with us or anybody who caught an episode and they want to kind of go back to our early days, hopefully they notice that we've kind of improved. Our format, our discussion, all of this has been a little bit in flux, and I know you and I were talking about this. I think we're definitely going to make some changes for the sake of consistency, for the sake of clarity, for the sake of symmetry for 2025.
Mhm.
So I think going forward, what it's going to look like is all of the episodes for these intros. We're going to try to keep it a little more spoiler free. I know sometimes we kind of threw out the highlights, and then I guess if you didn't want to listen to the rest of the episode, we kind of buried the lead with the intro,
Mhm.
which we don't want to do. So we're going to keep the intros kind of high level topics that whatever something that stood out for us without going to spoiler territory. But just kind of keeping that narrow niche where we're just talking about the episode and it's just that. So
Mhm.
you don't have to hear too much about Dan and I kind of going back and forth like we're doing right
Mhm.
here. Then we're gonna have the main episode and then we're gonna have the our outro. Um, that outro is likely going to be split between the two different episodes. If we can get everything together and everything's ready to go, we'll have kind of what's going on with the band. Because I know Dan talked about there are times that we've had these interviews 6 and 8 months between we actually release them, right? So we talk
Yeah.
to them whenever 6 and 8 months down the line, maybe they have a show coming up, maybe they have a benefit coming up, a new single, a new album, a reissue, whatever's going on. So we're going to try
Mhm.
to make that part of the first episode, our outro, let you know everything that's going on with the band. Something else that I want to make sure that we do a better job of is letting everybody know, like, this is the song that we picked and this is why we picked it. So
Mhm.
you're not just hearing it out of context. I know, like if you watch it on YouTube, it'll actually tell you what the song is and where it comes from or whatever. But if you're listening to it on whatever Apple or Spotify or wherever you come across this, you might not always have all that context, and you might not be
Mhm.
looking through your phone to see all the links or whatever. So I want to make sure we do a better job of that. And then
Yep. Good call.
the the second part I think is going to be more of the same. We're going to have our brief intro, we're going to have the episode, and then that's when Dan and I are going to kind of have our decompression session where what's new with him, what's new with me, kind of whatever. Try to do my old man gripes more consistently.
Mhm.
Maybe Dan will also finally do the things to piss off his wife that
Oh
he's been
yeah,
hinting he's
that's
going to do,
teasing.
and
That list is a mile long, so man,
I
I could
mean,
feel fill it
always have
all.
new material that way, right?
Exactly. Good thing she'll
Uh,
never listen to this. That I'm certain of.
there you go, right? So we can say whatever we want with complete impunity. Uh,
Exactly.
um, some of the other changes that we definitely want to make. One of the reasons why I decided to start this is it's weird, and I'll probably get a lot of pushback and a lot of slack for this. I don't like podcasts. And not necessarily that I don't really like them, but I don't have a lot of time to just sit and listen to things. So if I have time to listen, I'm gonna continue going through my backlog of CDs that I have to try to continue working on my playlist or listen to new albums or whatever, right? Or I'm watching a movie or something like that. But then there have been times with other podcasts where it's just been musicians that I'm super interested in, or whatever, people that intrigue me or albums that intrigue me or whatever have you, that I'll listen to it. And I've noticed that I start to listen to the episode and then it gets right to the part where like they'll mention whatever, some weird EP or some project band, and then they'll talk about it for like 30 seconds and then they'll jump back in, or the episode will end, or whatever happens. So for me, one of the reasons I wanted to do this is when we go down these rabbit holes and we talk about this stuff, please keep talking. Tell me everything there is to know about this. But Dan and I were also talking, like, maybe you might be intimidated by a 2.5 hour episode. It's a time investment, and I get that, and that makes sense. So starting in 2025, when we release the episodes, we're going to release everything in two versions, I guess, for lack of a better. Dan's the marketing guy, so maybe come up with something better than versions or
Hmm.
whatever cuts. But we're gonna have basically one, which would be the full cut. So we'll eliminate some of the unnecessary banter, or like Dan will fart and we'll all giggle or whatever. Like we'll cut that out. You don't need to hear that. But we'll try to keep the entire conversation intact as much as possible. So if it only goes an hour and 15 minutes, you'll get an hour and 15 minutes. If it goes for 2.5 hours, it'll go for 2.5 hours. Um, I can go probably longer without sleep with being fully functional compared to Dan. So, I mean, depending on how this works out in 2025, I don't know. But I mean, it might go way, because we film these at night for the most part. So it might
Yep.
go way, way past midnight. Dan might be like, dude, I'm tired. I gotta drop. Okay, cool. I'll continue on if they're interested in talking. So you might get a crazy length in episodes, but then we're also gonna have the 1 hour cut is basically what we're gonna have. Um, it's a struggle for me as far as editing. I feel pretty confident about editing in general, but when I'm editing other people's words to hit some kind of arbitrary time, I'm gonna focus on the things that you'll want to listen to. If you have the time and it's an episode you're interested in, I strongly recommend you listen to the extended director's cut, whatever we're gonna call it.
Yep.
But if
Zack Snyder cut. Yeah.
hopefully it's of better quality than Zack Snyder cuts, but um, yeah, I hope that you listen to the new episodes, um, the full episode, the longer episode. But if you don't,
Yeah.
like, time permitting or whatever, you're gonna have that 1 hour option. And so I think kind of what Dan and I were talking about, and what we've mostly settled on, is the shortcut is going to be our brief 5 minutes or less intro, the main conversation, which would be about 50 minutes there, give or take, one song from the artist, and then our brief outro, and then that'll be that. So coming in, clocking in right about an hour, maybe plus or minus 10 minutes, just depending on what happens and what we can cut and what we can't cut.
Hmm.
And then the normal, the full cut, the extended cut will be the same intro and the same outro that you had in the other episodes. You'll have the full uncut middle part where we actually have the conversation, and then that will be bridged with two songs by the artist. Just because I am a sucker for symmetry. So um I guess choices are good. So in 2025 you will have
Yep.
kind of two flavors for every episode, depending on what path you want to take and how much time you have and how much you're feeling whatever guest we have on. So
Yeah, I think that's a great. It's a great strategy because I know I was never a podcast person until I got into sales and I drive so much, and I just yeah, the radio is dead essentially. So podcast, I've now I'm a avid podcast consumer. So but I get, I know yeah, we want a length of for those who don't, I guess, want to have the time commitment and maybe want a little shorter and sweeter. But we hope that you listen to the director's cut version of our podcast because you're going to get a lot more out of those. But yeah, if you just want to, if you, yeah, that. if an hour is what you have for a podcast and that is what, then you'll get the more condensed version. And, I think we really have had some great guests on and we'll continue to get great guests on. So yeah, we just hope that if you're, just we want you to check out the podcast, whatever version you want to consume, please do. And yeah, but we'd like to, I don't know, for the band, I guess I've in my mind, just for the bands coming on, we'd like people to hear what they have to say. I mean, I don't care if people, you know, uh, I'm not, also for the clicks and all that. I just, just for, yeah, because we're getting some great bands on, I just hope that people at least like the bands will be checking out these podcasts and hopefully they enjoy the format and get something a little bit different because, kind of typical interview is more just like going down the history of the band, from start to finish. And I think we always have like kind of tangents and interludes. And I think that's what makes this that's what makes it so enjoyable for me is that we go down these rabbit holes and I don't, we covered the history of the band because that's kind of the format you know, that's the appropriate format, but I think we always kind of go down these weird rabbit holes and I love it. And yeah, to me, when we're going off and we're getting all this time with with interview, it makes yeah, I love it. I just think it's great because uh yeah, to me it's the most it's the yeah we're doing this as a labor of love and when when we're having these long interviews, it's yeah we're having a good time with whoever we're interviewing and it's yeah I don't know it's we've enjoyed it so yeah, but we're gonna be kind of fine tuning things for 2025 and but if yeah, go back and listen to yeah, check out some of the old interviews. I mean, people like Duncan and Steve from Season of Risk and Rennie from Starkweather. Those are great. All of them are great interviews, and I'm proud of what we've done. But the guest list speaks for itself. I think yeah, Eric did a great job putting together the people we interviewed for the this year. And we have like a dream guest list. I mean, Eric and I talk about this all the time. You know, we were focused on those bands from the late 90s, early 2000s. There's so much of that music. I would love, we'd love to get some bands on from that era, but also hopefully ones that are still active, but regardless if they're active or not, we love to we have there's no shortage of bands we want to get on for this podcast. So we'll hope to keep delivering for those people that are nostalgic about that great era of music, the 90s and 2000s punk hardcore, metalcore metal, that world, we want to keep getting some great guests that you're going to enjoy to this podcast.
Yeah, and I think, that's definitely going to be our focus. That's always going to be our focus. That's kind of why we started this. Um, but again, right, Dan and I are doing all of the scheduling, all of this by ourselves. So there are times where, we'll get that nostalgia band booked, and we're already seeing that going into 2025, where, hey man, this is somebody who released a really awesome album in 2005, and we want to get them on, but maybe they're not available then or then. And just because I know, obviously, Dan's super busy, I've got a lot of travel coming up in 2025. It's going to be a very, very busy work year for me. So if we can squeeze somebody in, somebody that I've communicated with before via email, somebody, that I've talked to, maybe they don't exactly fit that narrow nostalgia of 90s, 2000s.
Yep.
We'll still definitely bring them on.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
I think for me, the first time we broke format, or I broke format, because that was the first solo episode, was when I had Matt Schmitz on from Former Thieves. And again, right,
Hmm.
I don't, time is always weird for me. I don't understand time, I think, the way that most human beings do. So when I was getting ready, like preparing for the episode, I looked back and I was like, oh, that album came out in 2012. Like the whole format for the show was supposed to be 90s and 2000s. And so like I broke it then. Obviously we broke it a little bit with Chuck Coffey from Spells, because Spells
Yep.
is they've been around uh kind of later in that. They were not a band
Yep.
that I knew, that I listened to, that I knew of in the 90s and 2000s. So yeah, I mean, that's still going to be our bread and butter for that. Um, but I think it's also important sometimes that we don't. we don't limit ourselves and hold ourselves too strongly to these weird rules and regulations that we self-impose. I've always been terrible about that. I'm trying to be better, and I think this is
Yeah.
helping me kind of break that a little bit. But like kind of what Dan was talking about before, uh, we have these rabbit holes that we always go down. And again, I think for me, for my vision for what this is going to be, since these are all people that I look up to, right? People that have made amazing music. I like the idea of it being kind of two-pronged, where we understand them as a musician, but then we also understand them as an individual or as a person or whatever that might be, right? So we're
Hmm.
talking to Adam, and Adam and Dan talk about,
The Dodgers.
yeah, baseball for 10 minutes, right? Like we're
Yep.
getting to know Adam a little better. Or we talk to
Yeah.
Rennie, we talk about film noir, or
Yep.
whatever it is that we talk about.
Mhm.
That's important for me because the reason I have these people on is because I want to understand them better, and that's doing it for us, right? So, kind of talking a little bit more about 2025. Other things that we you might notice. Don't hold me to all of these. These are just wishes and dreams.
Mhm.
I'd like us to finally get our website started, at least, where you will have everything centrally located, as far as here's every link that we have to every episode in every format. That would be nice. I'd like for Dan and I to have our own, domain, so we can have our own email addresses, so we are more, I guess, approachable if you wanted to contact us. I can't
Yeah.
imagine why anybody would want
Accessible.
to, but if they do. Um,
Yeah.
and actually, to that point, we have a Discord server that I am on constantly. Dan jumps in there from time to time. We're
Hmm.
gonna we're gonna post
Yeah.
the invites here. For whatever reason, any random person wanted to talk to me,
Yeah. Well,
you'll have a venue, you'll have an ability for that. So
I always love. I mean, we talked about this, Eric and I text we text all the time about the show and concepts and everything. But I've always would love to have like fan questions because first of all, um, hey, we're having this guest on. What kind of questions do you have? Because I always enjoy that format of like, hey, this is a question from so and so. I because you could get some great questions and also I mean we welcome the questions. We do the research, in between work and everything else, and sometimes these interviews come up last minute, but it's something that's yeah more of a hope and wish there, but maybe put it out. This is who we're having on. What questions do you have for them? We'll try to work your questions in there because I always think the fan participation is always a good thing. So we would love that. We would welcome we welcome feedback in general, but we'd love to hear anything. Just give us some feedback. We love it. So that's how you get better that way. And also it would be nice to have more interactive with fans asking questions for questions of Duncan or Rob from Endpoint or yeah, just I know Starkweather, all these bands have their very devout fan bases, especially guys like Rob Pennington, who's been in a million bands. I mean, but yeah, we would love to welcome some questions. So that's something that's going to take a little more organization and yeah, I guess it's a little bit tough because we don't always have a set schedule of how we book our guests. So, but I would love to incorporate that in future editions of the show.
I think we should put an asterisk next to that too, because I- again, I would totally welcome, would love to have questions. We don't even always get through all of our own questions.
That's
So,
true.
I
Good point.
mean, if we ever
Yeah.
get to that point, please do not be offended if your question doesn't come up, because
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
it's again, right, just talking about how we've evolved, how we've grown. Like we went to the very first episode when we had Thule on. We had a gigantic list. Like Dan and I were sharing it via like Google Sheets or whatever. Here's all the questions we want to ask, and this is what we want to get into. And then we had the interview. It was like, okay, we maybe got through three of
Yeah.
those. So
It was like, yeah.
I don't ever want any of the bands, if anybody we've reached out to, anybody we've already talked to think that we wing this, because we definitely don't. I always
No.
do Dan does tremendous research and he's great about that. He'll even listen to any other podcast they've been on or all of
Yeah. I
that.
try to listen to interviews. Yeah.
And I will do that deep dive. Like I'll listen to the album, I'll have the lyric sheet out, like I'll kind of sequester myself and do that. And like, again, right, just with the nostalgia factor, I'll bring in any stories, anything that I remember, anytime that I saw them. So we definitely do our due diligence, but also at the end of the day, I like to just leave it as an open format for them to talk about whatever they want to. And
Hmm.
you know, it is our job, I suppose, to kind of direct them and
Yes.
kind of
Yeah.
bring them back every once in a while. But also we often, for most of
Yeah.
our guests, do not have time to ask a lot of the
No,
questions that I want to. So, I
that's
mean,
true.
it's
Yeah. We have a laundry list of questions that we get to, yeah. But that to me, that's a great thing. And that, I want to say you prompted me, you made me think of, really doing this podcast, besides interviewing some awesome people that we really enjoy. Um, just going back listening to the music, I've said it a million times, but that is really such a I just love it, like, and I know I bring up Season of Risk a lot, but like, there's albums I didn't listen to as much, like I didn't listen to Men Are Robots as much as, and now that I did that deep dive, I listen. That's like I love that album so much, and I didn't listen to. I went to Imperfect World or The Shattering, or listen to like the newer Starkweather, the last one, um, and listen. Yeah, it's made me appreciate these bands so much more, and also listen to albums that I didn't listen to as much, because I before we do the interview, I could try to consume as much of the music as I can, um, and I just have a deeper appreciation for it's brought me back to that. I don't know that yeah, it's made me love music more, which is awesome because you and I both love music. You've seen a million live shows. I've seen the whole, we've seen a lot of live shows, and yeah, I was just brought me back in touch with the music I love, still love, that punk hardcore, um, yeah, for me, yeah, metal, whatever. It's just that music. This has brought me back to in touch with, uh, yeah, that music again, which I still always have loved, but I've listened to it more now than I ever have, because it's kind of scratched my nostalgic itch for that music. So yeah, that was besides the prep that we do for the interviews, doing all the research, and listening to interviews and whatever. I think listening to music to me is my favorite part of it. Just yeah, binging on their music. Um, yeah, but and I've always said I hope that someone who listens like will go back and listen to all of Season of Risk or listen to all of Starkweather or listen to Guilt. Yeah, I just hope that if we get if we get some people to listen to these bands, that would make me very happy. That maybe missed out on them. That's always been one of my things with this podcast is, hey, maybe we turn some people on to some great music that they didn't know about.
I
Just like you turn, you like a lot of music I got into is because of you, and that you go down the rabbit hole of how it branches off. But yeah, someone gets you like we talk about these interviews, someone got someone gets you into the music that you love. It all starts as a starting point, and it's just kind of anyway, it's just kind of it's just cool. If we could hopefully get some people listening to some of these bands, um, that would make me happy.
yeah, I really love that idea that you just said. Even when I was in grad school, right, and I was writing my master's thesis, my quote that I've said to Dan and my family and other people that I've said before is I am never going to be as successful of a writer as maybe I would like to be or whatever. But my goal when I was writing my thesis is I don't care necessarily if I ever make it as a writer. I feel that it's one of the world's it's criminal. I think it's terrible that like going a little bit off topic, but Clark Ashton Smith never became as popular and never quite made it the way that I think that he should have. And obviously everybody we've had on here have had varying degrees of success and popularity and followings and all of that. For a variety of reasons, not all the bands made it as long, not all the bands got to tour as often or whatever have you.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I was never a member of a band that had the potential to make it, but everybody that we've had on here, everybody we will continue to have on here, um, is somebody that I feel is worth listening to. And so, you know,
Yep.
again, I don't care about the clicks, but if even one new fan is found because they listen to this and they discover the music, like that's what it's all about for me. It-
Yep.
Everybody that we talk to is somebody that deserves more fans than what they currently have. Regardless of what that number is, they deserve
Hmm.
more. They they affected me in a way that I feel that they should have affected more people. So
Yep. I think it's like the underrated theme is always, whether it's music or movies, I always yeah, I think that if any of the all these bands ever every we had on has been underappreciated. Um or had their time or broke up before they could have became bigger. Like you go down that rabbit hole with a few of the guests we but yeah, uh and all the albums we've done a deep dive on are just awesome, excellent albums and yeah, yeah, so that's been enjoyable. But yeah, I definitely think a lot of these yeah, a lot of these interviews the bands, you know, um I don't know, should have more love than what they probably do. So but yeah, we hope you enjoyed the first year of our podcast. We're looking forward to second year and yeah, just getting like I said, fine tuning things and we just want to keep getting guests on for interesting conversations and that's all we're really after. We enjoy talking to our guests and yeah and hopefully you enjoy listening to it and um yeah so there's good things ahead and we'll just we appreciate anybody that did listen this year and thanks for yeah thanks for sticking with us.
so I know the answer to this question. Don't want to necessarily put you on the spot, but when we first started, do you think we were gonna have not that 20 episodes is really a lot, but do you think that we're gonna have this many that we're gonna keep going strong? Did you feel like this was gonna be a passion project that was gonna burn out? I'm curious what your thoughts are.
I thought I knew you had a lot of people lined up. I was hoping that we would keep it going, but yeah, absolutely. I thought like oh like I just thought like oh we're gonna run into a wall of getting guests, and now it's kind of like we get guests through our guests, like the whole networking kind of thing, that's worked and come into a play, but yeah, I'm just yeah, it's awesome. Every time I think yeah, I think you've done a like such an done an awesome job just getting people on the show for us and yeah, I'm gonna try to step it up and get some people, try to see what I could do to get some guests on. And like you mentioned, like it could be guests that are adjacent, contemporary. We're not gonna pigeonhole things because the theme is what it is, but I think ultimately people don't really care, they're gonna care about the guest and they're not gonna be like, oh, you broke from the theme, you bastards or whatever. So I don't think they're gonna care that yeah, we're gonna get guests that we want to get on, basically, what's gonna come down to. So like it could be if it's gonna be adjacent or off, that to me that's fine. So, but yeah, it's the year has gone by like it's gone by fast, with this and but it's been a lot of fun. I feel bad missing out on some of them because of whatever, I broke my ankle and this year's been kind of weird and then sometimes it's just, we're both busy work schedule wise, but I can't sometimes it's just I don't know. Yeah, life gets in the way, but I really love doing these interviews and I always come out with a greater appreciation and just there's fun, to us yeah, I'm looking forward to the next batch of interviews we do and I'm looking forward to keeping the show going.
Yeah, and I think it's, we've talked about how far in advance sometimes we have these conversations. So this obviously is episode 20. We've already interviewed, I've already edited, right? We're basically ready to go up through episode 34. So we have at least one, two, three, four, five, six, seven more interviews that we've already done. We're booking up quite a few more. So I mean, this is definitely going to be going through 2025. That goal for me is to definitely hit that 100th episode. So
Good say 100.
that's
That in my mind, I thought 100 would be a cool number to have. So
that
yeah,
would be, and
absolutely.
you know, when I was first doing it, like there was that little voice in the back of my mind because when we release the episodes and I number them, like my first episode was episode 001, and
Hmm.
I know that there was, even my own subconscious was like, why are you doing that? You're never going to get to three
Hmm.
digits, but I think that we are.
There we
So,
go. Yeah, we're willing it. Yeah.
I mean, we've had a lot of strong guests so far. We have some amazing ones already that we've had. We have some more that we're, in the process of lining up.
Yeah.
So it's going to be good. Some other things, I guess, for 2025, just to close this out, so we don't talk endlessly.
Yeah.
Uh,
Too late.
oops. I'm Polish, so I'm bad at saying goodbye. So like I miss all those subtle and not so subtle social cues that you just need to shut up and go away. Um,
Um,
Chuck and I, hopefully people enjoyed our little bonus episode about ska. Uh, I learned a lot. I kind of view ska under a new lens. Um, we've dropped hints at kind of some of the other episodes that we wanted to do. He and I have been talking about it. Hopefully, that's something we do quarterly. And I think, again, right, this is just me spitballing, so don't hold me to it. But I'd like to do, like I said, quarterly, maybe for a year, and then make those kind of the holiday episodes, just when other things are going on, just to kind of be placeholders. So, hopefully we'll have another four of those, and people don't get sick of Chuck and I dropping the knowledge bomb on people. It's a slightly different format, but again, like Dan was talking about, it's still adjacent. It's going to be
yeah.
related, related to punk music somehow, some way. Even if it's not an all new artist talking about their band. It I like probably the nerdy part of me, right? English major and all. Like I like the lore, I like the backstory, I like finding out about all things. When I'm really interested in something, I like finding out about all things adjacent and tangential to them. So like for me, they're really fun episodes, but again, they're bonus episodes. So if it's not your cup of tea, you can hopefully you won't, but I mean, you can always skip them. The nice thing I'm finding out with these YouTube releases is we have the main playlist, and then like this now I have a bonus playlist for all, like this episode is the Chuck episode will be. Then starting in 2025, we'll have the long playlist and then the abridged playlist. So,
Yeah.
if for whatever reason you wanted to subscribe to just one, then you'll just get those episodes, and you won't necessarily have to watch the bonus episodes. So, the other thing that I know Dan and I have been talking about, we really want to try hitting harder a little bit more in 2025 is our socials and being more everything on the socials.
Diligent. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I guess I'm showing my age. I don't. My marketing degree from 2004 is a little dusty. So yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm learning. The social media has been a work in progress. Learn about it. Because I'm not, frankly not good at it. But it would be nice to promote it better because we want, just for the sake. Like I said, really, it's the sake of like I want to promote it better. So the band's coming on will hopefully get, you know, they get something out of it. And we could promote them. I don't really care about promoting us, it's really more about promoting the people we have on, just for the sake because they gave us that time. So that's my whole stance on it.
Yeah, I mean, Old Man Eric
Yeah.
never had an Instagram until
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
created one
Yep.
for this. So, I mean,
Yep.
I use Twitter regularly, and like that was, you know, like that's how I know that Damian Johnson was such a funny guy because I followed him on Twitter and he would drop these really, really funny, comical things, and okay, the dude's hilarious, right? I mean. But yeah, other than that, I've never been very big into social, so this is it's another learning curve for Dan and I, like everything else. So,
Yep.
just like I've been out of the editing game for a while, so finding out what new softwares are out there and what can kind of do the best and provide the best package and all that stuff. So, yeah, hopefully a lot of positive changes. And we said this a few times, and I know Dan already said that, but yeah, any feedback you want to throw our way is great. I cannot do anything at all about my punchable face, So
Yeah.
that's
And my crappy background with in the sequestered in my bunker down in the basement. I can't do anything about that. Yeah.
I did actually get new lighting for this room
Yeah, it
for
looks nice.
Christmas. So well
Yeah.
I haven't put it together yet, but hopefully it'll
Okay.
be more level lighting, and so it won't be like this harsh bright overhead
Oh, I
light.
was gonna say you have the halo effect, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's what I was
always have
saying.
this halo effect, and I've
Yeah.
actually
Well,
like I'll do this. So now I only have one of the three lights, and I still have a halo effect, but now it's just
yeah,
shadow everywhere else. So
that's hilarious.
I can't win.
Yeah.
I cannot win. I hate stupid. I mean, it's nice to have a ceiling fan in the room with all the computers
Yeah.
to do something about the
Cool.
heat, but it's
Yeah.
not great for lighting. So
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I feel yeah. Yeah, I'm in my little basement bunker here because it's the only place in my house I have any would have any kind of way of doing this show. So you're gonna have to see his crappy background for unfortunately, unless I could green screen it or do something silly. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, yeah, it's hopefully you watch the episodes. I know Eric, uh I think yeah, I consume podcasts both way. I mean, I love watching on YouTube, but I like listening to it because if you're driving, listening to it's the way to go, obviously. But yeah, whatever way you want to consume the show, hopefully you enjoy it. But I think if you watching the show interviews, you get a different. It's different than just the audio version. So I think that would be the preferred version if you're going to go that route.
there are definitely some funny visual cues you might be missing out on if you are only listening to this on audio. So
Like like Damien in his underwear.
well, again, I we cut that out. So
Yeah, okay.
that
Yeah,
was
that
a little
was
bit of magic editing. But no, it's funny. I was thinking about that the other day, right? So I'm sure you remember that back like in the late 80s, right? When people actually had their landlines or whatever, and people would walk around and people would always make fun of other people. They'd be talking on the phone, they have the phone up, and they would be talking with their hands on the phone and like, oh, why do you have talking here? Whatever. And then we moved into the Zoom world, and now you're basically talking on the phone, but everybody's like, no, you have to use your heart. Like
yeah.
you're giving a speech in speech class, but it feels
Hmm.
weird that I'm just moving my arms to this webcam in front of me. But that's what
Yeah.
you're supposed to do. So if you're
Yeah.
not watching the video, you can't just watch me throw my arms around like I'm a marionette doll and I'm being controlled by my like.
Yeah. Yeah, you're missing out. But anyway, yeah, however you listen or watch, just yeah, keep at it, and we'll keep bringing the guest on, and we're looking forward to another to a great year in 2025, and just happy and excited that we get guests on, and yeah, to share the show with the world.
Absolutely, yeah. So I mean, I think for me, uh, final thought, and then I will actually shut up for once,
Hmm.
is again, I'm humbled, I am grateful, I am appreciative, I am all those things that we had these people, all of these amazing people that came on that they were not only amazing people, but they shared their stories with us, they shared their time with us. Um, when we first started this, I knew that I was going to try to do this as long as we could, as long as it was still something worth doing. Um,
Hmm.
and I felt confident that we were at least gonna have 20 episodes. We're gonna close that this year. But I don't think I envisioned how cool everybody was going to be and how great all of the guests were going to be. So, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, again, right? Probably more of like a Thanksgiving theme for this, but
Yeah.
super thankful, super appreciative. Everybody who has come on, everybody who has responded to one of my emails, everybody who, hey, like 3 days from now, I'm going to throw your episode up. I need this, like, got back to me immediately. Um, all of you are amazing,
Yeah.
and it wouldn't this wouldn't exist without all of you. So I don't even have the words, but thanks for coming on. Thanks for spending
Yeah.
time to talk to some nobodies like Dan and I. It
Yeah, there's
means the
people that
world to
love,
me.
yeah, just fanboys, really. I love that love the music and legit, yeah. Like I said, I'm flattered and humbled that we get the time we do with the interviews and yeah, I have a greater appreciation for everybody we've had on, and yeah, I mean every interview's never it's definitely never gone the way we expected, which is awesome. Like it always kind of goes off and into tangents and thank you to everybody who's come on to this year. We truly appreciate it that you gave us that amount of time. And anybody who's listened, we also truly appreciate you. So thank you. And yeah, cheers to 2025.
Yeah. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.